You know, democracy is not altogether different from mob rule if you don't have free speech. Right? Like the thing that keeps democracy from being just the mob getting together and saying, we've got 51%, and so everybody else has to endure whatever we believe. The major limiting factor there is the ability to argue. And you did a video, or I saw a video about the personalized century and about how people are using technology. And I found myself like falling down into I had a set amount of time I could research you, but I started watching this personalized century, and it was extremely insightful, because I think that some of the things you're talking about are what are guiding us down a path towards a mob-ruled democracy, as opposed to a robust and exciting heterogeneous society.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that, because I've got a book proposal out at the moment on that very topic. So I'm hoping that's going to be my next book. Yes, I think that is part of the problem. I think, and it's that we have the sensation that the past was a mass society. So maybe our grandparents' lives, they lived as part of a mass society, and everybody got, same size fits all, and were treated as masses, and, healthcare and warfare and marketing and everything was done to people en masse, and it was all a bit faceless. But now it's the 21st century, we've emerged as individuals, and everyone can express themselves. And isn't this great? But actually, what I realized, and I kind of started from the technology and then zoomed out and went, well, actually, that's the sensation, but it's not actually true, because a lot of these things we are still treated as part of a mass. It's just that what used to be, they used to about 100 years ago, they used to segment the market. So they'd go, we're going to market this to farmers in the Midwest or to factory workers in Chicago, because we know that they're different sorts of people and they'll have different amounts of money and different concerns and different things they want to buy. So you would be targeted, but in this very broad brush way. Now you're targeted according to loads of really niche things, like what you last searched for on the internet, or, obviously still things like your age and where you live and your income, but things like, well, if you're on the internet, what device are you using? Because we can make assumptions about you based on, are you using an Apple Mac computer or an old laptop or whatever? And so we get the sensation it's all personalized, but actually it's just mass marketing, but the niches are tiny. But from our side of it, it's much worse, because we're not part of a mass, because we're doing all these things as an individual. We don't get the support and the solidarity that we would get from being part of a mass. So we don't get to confer with each other and go, you think of the poor old Uber drivers who Uber keep trying to say they're not workers. We have a free contract with them. It's like, well, I don't know, you set the rates and tell them where to go. And so it sounds like they're workers. It's just you don't want to pay them any sick pay or anything. But the Uber drivers, they don't all go to work in the same place. It's not easy for them to confer with each other and go, I'm getting this. What are you getting for this? Don't you think we should organise and do something about this? Because we're doing things as individuals. So I do think that's part of the problem, that we are, we're doing everything as individuals. We're quite atomised. And so if you think about how public debate happens, it's very easy, because you're doing it through social media, that you fall into a niche of people who think like you, and then when you do encounter people who don't agree with you, you suddenly feel like your whole identity is threatened. It's not just, here's someone with a different opinion. It's like, well, my identity now depends on being seen as somebody who thinks this.
That's the fascinating part about social media, right? Like, it turned what could have been a meritocracy or some sort of other thing to our conversations being honor culture, where if somebody besmirches my reputation, I will be, people will look down on me. I may be unfollowed. I may lose social status. And when we had institutions like churches and community groups The thing was, you might have your beliefs, but you had to moderate them because if you were going to see this person in church next week. So if you completely obliterated them in an argument this week, then next week you've got to see her again, so you had to find a way to moderate what you're thinking. And then that allowed you to also hear other ideas without them being threats against who you are as a social symbol. And that to me is like, then you get into these weird kind of, exactly to your point of, you're an individual, you're thinking like an individual, but you're also a part of this mass. You're being marketed in this weird way. Like, I think so much about the way we are bonded together as human beings has changed in the last 20 years as to be nearly impossible to understand.
Yeah, I think that is the big change. I mean, obviously lots of things have changed in the last 100 years, but I do think that is a massive change, that our collective lives have been so eroded, and yet we can connect through technology especially, but it's always as individuals. So we have this completely different relationship, not only with institutions and so on, but also with each other. It was interesting, actually. I was at a kind of virtual conference over the weekend, and somebody was talking about their research into debate on social media and how they'd gone into the research with all these assumptions about how it's social media that's terrible, that makes us all so angry. And what they'd actually found was that it wasn't so much that, it was that the way we used social media, which came out of kind of the way society is run now. So they said, we realized that people don't go into social media either to discuss things or to have their opinions validated. They go into social media to build their identity, and their identity as part, as individuals and also as part of the group of people they agree with. And that's why the exchanges rapidly get so heated, is precisely because that, your identity is your opinions. So if someone disagrees with you, it is, maybe we should bring back dueling. Maybe that's the answer, that if you can only be that rude to people on social media if you are prepared to go out with maybe swords rather than pistols. But it's like, actually, you've got to meet and have a sword fight before you're allowed back on Twitter.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you like this interview, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and hit that bell so you always get notified about this podcast. And if you're really interested in conversations like this, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. To find out more, go to network.articulate.ventures.